During the imperial examination, Du Yangshi places third and becomes a Tanhua scholar. As he parades through the streets, Yu Xiui sees him and is instantly drawn to him. Later, the Duanli families arrange a marriage, but instead of his preferred match, Du Yangshi is given the eldest daughter, Shou Hua. Upset, he treats her coldly, ignoring her on their wedding night and leaving her alone while he goes to the temple. Despite this, Shou Hua remains respectful and dutiful, winning over Du Yangshi's mother with her willingness to learn and help. When Shou Hua returns to her family, her relatives are outraged by Du Yangshi's treatment. Madame Li wants to confront him, but Shou Hua stops her, saying she has her own way of handling things. Meanwhile, she also saves Sang Yanrang from alcohol poisoning, earning admiration from those around her. Du Yangshi's friends urge him to appreciate Shou Hua's beauty and virtues. Eventually, his mother scolds him, forcing him to apologize. As he observes Shou Hua's kindness and intelligence, he slowly falls for her. However, she ignores him, teaching him a lesson in patience. Desperate to win her over, Du Yangshi seeks advice. He writes her poetry and letters, but she remains indifferent. Over time, he admires her more, especially during the Cold Food Festival. Meanwhile, his career flourishes, gaining favor with the emperor and attracting the attention of a high-ranking official. When jealous scholars gossip about him, a stranger, Yan Zimei, defends him, and they become friends. Du Yangshi notices Yan Zimei's eloquence and carefree personality and considers befriending him. However, during a banquet, a drunken Yan Zimei reveals that he once pledged his love to Madame Li's daughter, but fate kept them apart. Now, believing that Shou Hua is a widow, he has come to find her, unaware that Du Yangshi is her husband. Hearing this, Du Yangshi confides in Qian and Fan Lianghan, declaring that he wants a wife to share life and death with. If Shou Hua has feelings for another, she is not the woman he seeks. Concerned, his friends begin investigating. Meanwhile, Fu Hui and Kong Ning warn Shou Hua, but she remains calm, confident in her innocence. The sons-in-law have a servant spy on Yan Zimei and discover he is preparing gold armlets for his old love. Shou Hua recalls seeing a man spying on her in her youth and wonders if he was connected to Yan Zimei. When Du Yangshi later sees Shou Hua wearing armlets, doubt creeps into his heart. The next morning, Yang Yapo deliberately drops a handkerchief identical to the one Yan Zimei had, further fueling Du Yangshi's suspicion. In a rage, Du Yangshi storms into Shou Hua's room, destroys her artwork, and even threatens divorce. Terrified, Chunlai informs the Li family. Madame Li is furious but realizes that breaking the marriage could ruin both families. That night, Du Yangshi goes to Madame Li's house to announce the divorce but is confronted by her daughters and maids. He refuses to explain the real reason, wanting to spare Shou Hua's dignity. Qian suspects there is more to the story. Du Yangshi secretly tells him that he and Shou Hua are playing along to expose Yan Zimei's scheme. Later, Madame Li tricks Yang Yapo into confessing that she was helping Yan Zimei secretly meet Shou Hua, while Yan Zimei arrives to meet Shou Hua. Pretending to agree to an engagement, she tricks him into confessing how he deceived Du Yangshi about the armlets. At that moment, Madame Li returns, and Du Yangshi and his friends emerge, confronting Yan Zimei. Realizing he has been exposed, Yan Zimei admits that he is already married but insists that Shou Hua could still become his wife. Yang Yapo confesses everything, revealing the entire scheme. To protect Shou Hua's reputation, they punish Yan Zimei privately rather than report him. Madame Li, satisfied, praises her sons-in-law. However, Qian and Du Yangshi argue with Fan Lianghan, who had betrayed their alliance for his wife's sake. The three men bicker at home, but their wives ultimately take them away. After solving the riddle with Qian's help, Du Yangshi impresses Shou Hua and gifts her a silk fan. However, she challenges him again by throwing the fan into the Bianjing River, saying he must retrieve it to restore their relationship. Du Yangshi considers jumping in, but bystanders mistake it for a suicide attempt. Fan Lianghan intervenes, ordering a search for the fan, but it's nowhere to be found. Du Yangshi then comes up with a trick, hiding a similar fan inside a fish and presenting it to Shou Hua. She sees through the deception and scolds Kong Ning and Fu Hui for helping him, though she has no proof the fan is fake. Later, Du Yangshi notices a new pair of shoes and assumes they are for him, only to realize they were made for Shou Hua's late husband. Overcome with jealousy, he drinks heavily to cope. Meanwhile, Mrs. Cui opens a rival tea shop, angering Madame Li, but her daughters persuade her to stay calm. A new maid, Chou'er, joins Shou Hua's service. Madame Li advises Shou Hua to let go of the past and cherish Du Yangshi. That night, a drunken Du Yangshi confesses his struggles as an orphan, raised by his mother against all odds. He admits his insecurities about her late husband and his desperate need for validation. Shou Hua, moved by his words, realizes the depth of his pain. Though she believes marriage should be built on mutual respect, Du Yangshi longs for warmth and affection. His heartfelt plea softens her, and she finally kisses his forehead. They reconcile and consummate their marriage. The next morning, Du Yangshi paints pear blossoms on Shou Hua's camisole, symbolizing their newfound affection. Meanwhile, Rong Mei, Cui Ji's daughter, uses her charm to attract customers, threatening Sifu Ji's business. Madame Li refuses to exploit Xiang Nu the same way, hoping to find her a good husband instead. During a visit home, Shou Hua and her sisters notice Yan Zimei following their carriage. Madame Li, displeased, orders her sons-in-law to discipline him, but Fan Lianghan takes it too far, beating him unconscious. Fan Lianghan is punishing Yan Zimei when Mrs. Cui intervenes, faking an illness and luring Madame Li to her home. There, she claims Yan Zimei has been beaten to death and blackmails Madame Li for money. Fearing scandal, Madame Li pays her off, but Mrs. Cui keeps demanding more, forcing her to pawn valuables. Her daughters notice, confront her, and she confesses the truth. Fan Lianghan initially flees on Madame Li's advice, but Cheyenne captures him. Cheyenne wants to report everything to the authorities, but Madame Li objects, fearing forced confessions. Instead, the family tries to settle things quietly, and Du Yangshi suggests offering Mrs. Cui 1,000 yuan. Later, he sulks over Shou Hua not informing him earlier, amusing her with his childish jealousy. That night, Mrs. Cui prepares to escape with the money but is caught by Cheyenne. Their trap uncovers not only her fraud but also a hidden corpse in a well. As the investigation unfolds, they discover the dead man is Cui Wu, Mrs. Cui's adopted son. He had attempted to assault Rong Mei, and Mrs. Cui killed him, then framed Fan Lianghan to cover up the crime. She is arrested, and her daughter tearfully chooses to join her in prison. Meanwhile, the Li family realizes Yan Zimei has escaped with Mrs. Cui's help, leaving behind a blood-stained robe. Though it remains unclear whether he orchestrated the blackmail, he is the only one left unpunished. At a royal banquet, Du Yangshi impresses the emperor with his poetry and receives a flower pin. However, he accidentally drops the lotus from it, and noblewoman Yu Xiulian, who admires him, gives him hers instead. Forced to accept, Du Yangshi awkwardly brushes off the situation. Returning home, he finds Shou Hua building a vegetable garden for his mother and gives her the flower pin as a gift. When Shou Hua realizes it is gold inlaid, she suspects a noblewoman gave it to him. Her sisters reassure her of Du Yangshi's loyalty. Inspired by the pin, Shou Hua starts making and selling scented flower decorations, which quickly gain popularity. The hairpins from Four Blessings Studio are selling exceptionally well. A woman from the Yu family places a large order and invites the Li sisters to the Summer Flower Festival. On the day of the event, Du Yangshi buys a golden hairpin for Shou Hua, hoping to accompany her, but she politely declines. While ironing clothes, Run Yu accidentally damages a garment. Instead of blaming her, Shou Hua expresses concern for her well-being, deeply moving Run Yu. Originally, Run Yu tries to dissuade Shou Hua from attending the banquet, but Shou Hua insists it would be impolite to cancel. Wearing an old dress, she brings her sisters along to the Yu residence. At the banquet, Yu Xiui deliberately acts friendly toward Shou Hua, attempting to get closer to her. However, Shou Hua has already realized that Run Yu is a spy placed by Yu Xiui and purposely sends Kong Ning away. Meanwhile, Cheyenne tracks down Yan Zimei and captures him, forcing him to reveal how Madame Cui framed Fan Lianghan. Yan Zimei tearfully insists he was coerced. Shou Hua then accuses him of acting under Yu Xiui's orders. Yu Xiui, unfazed, openly admits it and even offers to introduce Shou Hua to a noble suitor, suggesting she give up Du Yangshi. Furious, Shou Hua storms out with her sisters. On the way back, the sisters discuss the situation, fearing that while Shou Hua may reject the Yu family's influence, Du Yangshi might not. To reassure her, Du Yangshi personally visits the Yu residence to make his stance clear. Prime Minister Yu Chuyi, enraged by his daughter's schemes, interrogates Yu Xiui and threatens to punish her. Madame Yu intervenes, but Yu Chuyi rebukes her, declaring that an unprincipled mother raises an unprincipled daughter. After he leaves, Yu Xiui declares she will marry no one but Du Yangshi and begs her mother for help. Determined, Madame Yu devises a plan to take Du Yangshi from Shou Hua. The next morning, Madame Du and Madame Li visit the temple to offer incense. Madame Yu seizes the opportunity to bring Madame Du to the Yu residence. When Madame Li realizes she is missing, she alerts Du Yangshi. Meanwhile, the perceptive Madame Du pretends to be unaware of their scheme and tactfully refuses the marriage proposal. This angers Madame Yu, who detains her. Fortunately, a maid named Sang Ma sneaks out to deliver the message. Upon hearing the news, Du Yangshi rushes to the Yu residence. However, Madame Yu has instructed the servants to humiliate him by refusing him a seat or tea, leaving him standing outside until nightfall. Eventually, he is allowed inside and finds his mother safe. Just as he prepares to leave with her, Yu Chuiai arrives and unexpectedly apologizes. Madame Du, however, instinctively clutches Du Yangshi's clothing, looking anxious and urging him to leave. Her reaction catches Yu Chuiai's attention. Later, Shou Hua tends to Madame Du while Du Yangshi watches over her. Noticing her restless sleep and hearing her call his name in her dreams, he feels a pang of sorrow. He suddenly recalls her strange reaction at the Yu residence and takes out a jade pendant, beginning to suspect a hidden connection between his mother and Yu Chuiai. At dawn, Shou Hua and Sang Ma are busy in the courtyard when Sang Yenrang arrives in a hurry. He informs Du Yangshi that while the top 3 scholars have been assigned prestigious government positions, Du Yangshi has been sent to Xiangzhou, a remote borderland. Sang Yenrang believes this is a deliberate challenge, and without strong backing, Du Yangshi may struggle to achieve success or worse, find himself in danger.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for more videos like this.